Welcome everybody. We'll get going here in a minute. Just let the room fill up. Thank you for your patience. All right, everybody, just give us one more minute, and then we'll get the show rolling here. All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is Steve Jappinga. I'm with the Lansing Regional Chamber. This is the Lansing Regional Chamber of Commerce Relaunch Greater Lansing webinar series. This webinar is focused on proper cleaning in the workplace. Looking forward to hearing from our three experts on how to properly clean the workplace. And this program features Tico Duckett, President and CEO of DSquared Facility Management and Duckett Brothers. MacKenzie Clark, who's a wholesale specialist here in Michigan with Kimberly-Clark Professional. And then Roger Engholm. Hope I said that right, Roger. I probably didn't.
Close enough. Good morning.
I know it's like my last name. Regional account manager with Warsaw Chemical. So just as a reminder, this is a webinar format. Now that you've all entered the room, everybody's on mute. We cannot see your video, so don't worry. You may ask questions during the program. There will be an opportunity to ask questions of all three of the panelists at the end, but we'll make sure that the webinar operator, myself, will make sure that we get every question answered. This is also recorded. Following this presentation, we will send the recording out, so if you miss anything, you can get that. And then this will also be sent out to our entire membership, as well as all the regional partners with the Relaunch Greater Lansing Task Force. With that being said, again, thank you for joining us today. And I'm going to kick it off to Mr. Tico Duckett.
Well, thank you, Steve. I'd like to thank the Lansing Chamber, Tim, Steve, the task force. I mean, you guys have done a tremendous job with educating people in the Lansing region on cleaning solutions, how to clean properly, and just, you know, helping everybody follow the CDC regulations. Once again, my name is Tico Duckett, president of Duckett Brothers. And Duckett Brothers is a distribution company that supplies all the janitorial supplies from A to Z: mops, buckets, brooms, solutions, paper products, you name it. Also, I am the president of DSquared Facility Management. We do commercial cleaning. So we pride ourselves now on the new way of cleaning. And I'm hoping we can answer all your questions today. There's a lot of information out there, and we have two great people that are very educated, and we would love to field all your questions. As we go, we would like to answer anything that you have, and you know, what we can answer today, we will definitely get back with you in the future. So we're going to kick this thing off right away, and MacKenzie, if you want to get started with Kimberly-Clark information, that's great.
Absolutely. Please give me one moment to start sharing. And can everybody see my screen as I start to present? Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to turn my video off for this part, but hi everybody, my name is MacKenzie. I am the wholesale specialist in Michigan, like Steve and Tico mentioned. I work for Kimberly-Clark Professional, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. Kimberly-Clark, if you're not familiar, has created the brands Scott, Cottonelle, Kleenex, Wipeall, Kimtech, and KleenGuard. So just wanted to kick off the cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting in the workplace as Michigan starts to reopen and go back to work. And so first, I did want to focus a little bit on hand drying because, as you are all probably aware, the governor has outlawed jet air dryers within the state of Michigan. So there's going to be a huge shift from jet air dryers over to paper towels, because single-use paper towels are the most effective and most hygienic hand washing solution in comparison to jet air dryers. So your hands could be more contaminated after using a jet air dryer than before you wash them. A recent study had found that 42% of people had more bacteria on their fingers and 15% more on their palms after using a jet air dryer. Additionally, the inner surfaces of a jet air dryer can harbor 48 times more bacteria than found on a toilet seat, which is a disgusting thought. And one study even found that jet air dryers disperse 1,300 times more germ particles into the surrounding air than paper towels. And even after 15 minutes, there were still 100 times more particles in the air when using jet air dryers versus single-use paper towels. So there's going to be a huge shift in the workplace from using these jet air dryers, whether it's in commercial facilities, office buildings, manufacturing facilities, over to single-use paper towels. And Kimberly-Clark is one of the leaders in the business of paper towel systems, and we're actually putting a lot of innovation into keeping things touchless. That's the way that the industry is moving going forward. So I just wanted to showcase some of the products that we do have that help make the restroom more hygienic. So we do have an electronic and manual version of our paper towel dispenser that will dispense one at a time. We also have electronic skincare for hand sanitizer and hand soap, so again, touchless. And then we also have our Scott Pro Scott Fold towel system, which dispenses one of those C-fold towels every time. I did want to touch a little bit on cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting. This is something that Roger is going to go over more in depth because it is more in his wheelhouse with the chemicals. But I did just want to kind of remind everybody that cleaning is going to remove germs from surfaces, sanitizing is going to lower the number of germs, and disinfecting is going to kill those germs. So as we go back into the workplace and we're starting to reopen our facilities, we need to clean and disinfect those frequently touched surfaces daily. Previously, it was found in some studies that a lot of people were really focusing on cleanliness for the appearance, and now there's going to be a shift in this industry, and as we start to reopen facilities, to making sure it's actually disinfected, and we're removing those germs, we're killing those germs. So it is recommended to clean the surface using detergents or soap and water, and then disinfecting using EPA registered disinfectants that Roger will go over a little bit later. I did want to touch on our wiper offerings because the days of reusable towels, rags, shop towels, you name it, those days are over. Those can harbor up to 90% of the contaminants even after heavy laundering in those facilities. So what Kimberly-Clark recommends is we do have disposable wipers. We have our Wipeall L40 towels. It's going to help apply those chemicals, those spray chemicals, and it's also going to help absorb spills. And it's safe enough to use on wiping hands and face. It's also used for routine cleaning and maintenance. So for those surfaces that are constantly being touched, like elevator buttons or door handles, if the doors are not automatic, some surfaces like that, where as we go back into our facilities, we need to really think about how often those spaces are touched. And our L40 towels are limited, which means it's one use and you can throw it away. We also have some more heavy duty wipers that are used with chemicals that are more for more intense cleaning, such as cleaning equipment and surfaces. It does work with the thinners and lubricants depending on the facilities that you are in, and it's also for adhesive cleaning. And we do have multiple delivery systems for all of our wiper products, and I'm more than happy to discuss with anybody on this call later about the different applications or which which wipers are best for which types of applications. After this call, we will be sending out a review of this this webinar, and I have also included a list of our base sheet technologies and the chemicals they are compatible with. So as you listen to Roger talk about the different chemicals that are being recommended to disinfect and clean, just keep those in mind, and you can refer back to that sheet that kind of tells you which material, which base sheet is best for the application of chemical. And lastly, I did want to go over the 10-step building hygiene checklist. This is something Kimberly-Clark has put together for not only our customers, but for patrons out there as people start to go back into the workplace. So we want to make sure that our water systems and devices are safe. A lot of us have been working from home, not going into the facility. So making sure that standing water is being cleaned out and moving through those pipes so we can decrease the risk of waterborne illnesses. We also want to create a limited touch environment. So as I mentioned before, sensor activated door openers and electronic restroom dispensers, where everybody's moving towards less touch and more automatic. We want to ensure that the cleaning staff in the different facilities are trained on new protocols. Do they understand the difference between cleaning, where you're removing the germs, versus disinfecting, where you're killing the germs, and sanitizing, where you're lowering the number of germs? Oh, excuse me. Establishing screening procedures. I'm not sure how many of you have been out and about in Michigan. I personally went to the dentist last week and they took my temperature as I walked in. So a lot of facilities are starting to put in more protocols just to make sure that people coming into the workplace are healthy, and we're not, especially with COVID still ongoing, making sure that we're able to screen those people and make sure they're healthy coming in. Maintaining social distancing. If you've been to Meijer or any other grocery store, you have probably noticed the social distancing markers on the ground, the plexiglass screens in front of people. So also making sure in the workplace that people are maintaining 6 feet apart distance, and using masks where needed, whether it's in food service or something that causes the patrons to interact more so with the workers. Rethinking unassigned workspaces and shared equipment. I know that as we move forward in the workspace, a lot of companies we're starting to adopt more desk share practices, but that's something that currently we should not be doing because it does spread those germs between those different people. And posting hygiene information throughout the facility, reminders about proper hand washing techniques in the restroom, reminders about about wipers and things that can just help really, hand sanitizer posters throughout the facilities, just to help people understand that they need to be constantly washing their hands and sanitizing, so that way we're limiting the spread of germs. Keeping critical supplies well stocked. Previously, a lot of people only had just-in-time demand when it came to paper towels, when it came to facial tissue, when it came to bath tissue. I know we have all probably on this call experienced the saga of walking into a grocery store and there's no toilet paper. So people are starting to really have more of a 30, 60-day supply on hand of those really important products to have on hand, such as PPE, where whether it's masks or whether it's safety glasses and coveralls and things like that. Developing a response plan in case someone in the building becomes ill. COVID is not going away anytime soon. We all know that. Look at Florida. They tried to reopen and there was an influx of new cases. So as we start to reopen in Michigan, making sure that the business has a response plan so that way the germs aren't spreading from person to person, and making sure the person can be safely isolated. And then considering enhancements to indoor air quality. An EPA report found that installing a system designed to improve indoor air quality has led to increased productivity and fewer lost work days, because the air quality is something that is so huge. And if we're constantly purifying it, we're helping to have less germs spreading throughout the workplace. So that is all I have from the Kimberly-Clark perspective. Roger, I will go ahead and pass it over to you.
All right, thank you, MacKenzie. She is exactly right. A lot of good stuff there. I'll zero in on just a couple pieces of that. Let me just mention thank you to Tico and the Lansing Chamber of Commerce to be able to participate. Warsaw Chemical, for those that don't know, is located in Warsaw, Indiana, kind of just across the border, a little bit west of Fort Wayne, and been in business about 75 years. So we'll just go right into the chemical part of this. Cleaning is a new reality, a new normal, and yet actually cleaning has always been a reality in business, hasn't it? We just have to keep our houses clean, our places of business clean, our transportation clean. What's new is the amount of cleaning that everybody's going to have to do going forward. I'm sure you all realize that. You're going to clean like you've never cleaned before, probably. You're seeing in your businesses, you're hearing regulations from the various governments, and you're seeing it with either your peers or your competitors. And MacKenzie talked about it just briefly. So as we look at the topic of proper cleaning and sanitization of the workplace, we'll zero in on a three-step process. And that is cleaning, number one, sanitizing, number two, disinfecting, just exactly like the slide that she said, just as is shown in bullet point number one from the CDC here. They are not the same, folks. So hopefully you all understand that. Hopefully that's not a redundant saying, but they are not the same. First step is cleaning. What is that? It's simply the process of removing visible dirt. Dirt, grime, soil, dust, food scraps, debris, and it's a little bit hard in a webinar to know exactly who all's involved, but you kind of get the idea, right? Basic, general, initial cleaning. It does lower the number of germs and to some extent reduce the spread of infection, but it's only the first step to take. It should always be done first. And it can be, quite frankly, simple as using soap and water. Or there's a multitude of various items that are appropriate to that step, and certainly Tico offers them all. I think that the important thing to remember today is to establish both a routine and a continuous cleaning program. If not to comply with mandates, certainly for the common good of all the human beings that you come in contact with in your business and just personally. The second step would be sanitizing. It's always best to do that after places, surfaces have been cleaned. Sanitizing, of course, and MacKenzie referred to it a little bit, means just to make something clean and hygienic. It does reduce germs to a somewhat safe level, but it is not meant to kill all bacteria. I might mention that the EPA typically authorizes claims that sanitizing will kill 99.99% of bacteria on a surface. And if you look at labels, if you look at product guides, if you look at catalogs, anybody that's making a reputable product based on common manufacturing standards will have those claims on it. So again, it's better in the second step if things have been cleaned first. And then the third step is disinfecting. Disinfecting will kill 100% of microscopic organisms. Sorry, trying to say a mouthful. That would include germs, fungus, virus, bacteria. Now, the important thing here is what we call dwell time. And again, not to be redundant, but dwell time is simply time that a disinfectant spends on a surface or some area. Typically for the disinfecting, and obviously we are mostly talking about SARS-CoV-2, which is the other name for COVID-19 that you all are aware of. The dwell time typically is between 2 to 10 minutes, depending on the product. It's really good for high-risk areas, and MacKenzie touched on those. You all can find those. Things like computer mouses, even the size of a water fountain, if people still have those in businesses today. When it comes to school, the big issue seems to be how do we handle desks, seats in buses, stairs, stair rails, elevator buttons, all those commonly touched areas that become high-risk areas. But again, all these products have been approved by the EPA based on very formalized testing protocols. In fact, there are even EPA registration numbers assigned to each product for each manufacturer. So just make sure that you are working with something that is EPA registered. And then that kind of brings you to the area of hand sanitizers. I don't think there's anybody hardly nowadays that doesn't have some sanitizer somewhere. We happen to offer 3 of those. 2 of them are foaming hand sanitizers, one in a 5-ounce small clear bottle, one in a gallon jug, which for purposes of this webinar might be pretty important because you can have wall dispensers, foaming wall dispensers. They would need to be refilled, and a gallon jug is a whole lot easier to use in that process. And then there's a second one called Defend Plus, which is a 70% alcohol gel sanitizer and does come in 16-ounce clear bottles. I might also mention just very quickly that most of our products, except for the foaming, are compatible with trigger sprayers, misters, foggers, electrostatic sprayers, those kinds of mechanical things that will give a good broadcast to all the chemicals in a fairly quick process. So as we're looking at the 7 steps here from the CDC, obviously know the difference between cleaning, sanitizing, disinfecting. Both Kimberly-Clark and Warsaw and the CDC say the same thing. Cleaning cleans, sanitizing reduces germs, disinfecting kills germs. Clean and sanitize surfaces and objects that are touched often. You can kind of figure out your own life pattern, your own lifestyle, your own business, where those things are that are touched often. I think one of the most important is to plan today for routine and continuous. We probably ought to add the word in there, continuous cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting. Do it correctly. We talked about dwell time. Don't spray and wipe. The challenge, I think, for every restaurant owner is to train his people who are typically used to cleaning the table with a mild sanitizer of some kind, or even soap and water, to spray, wipe it off, seat the next customer, get the turns going. But in today's world, some of that product needs to sit on the tables for a few minutes. Use the correct products, and Tico can obviously guide you through that process. use products safely. None of these are really caustic, but if your employees feel the need for gloves, if you have access to them, please provide them. None of them probably require any goggles, but certainly goggles and even PPE is available. And then just handle waste properly. That's probably one of the least cumbersome issues that we'll face today. But if there is any kind of a waste at all, just make sure that that's handled properly. So again, appreciate it. Obviously, we'll leave this time for questions. We are available. MacKenzie, myself, and Tico. Tico obviously is the driver of this. He has people out on the streets. So with that, I will turn this back to Steve. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you, MacKenzie and Tico. If any of the attendees have a question, you may, you're more than welcome to ask right now in the Zoom webinar chat. We also have the Q&A function where you can ask a question and raise your hand. So we'd be happy to answer any of those now, or our panelists would.
You know, Steve, if I can chime in real quickly.
Sure.
Really what I'm hoping our audience gets out of this is that they are informed. And once you're informed, you have a little bit of empowerment. You know what's going on. You can help lead people. You can be in tune with your cleaning company. And I think that's the biggest thing, is making sure that the owners of the company, the office managers, the restaurant managers, they're just informed as to what products to use, how to use it properly, when to use them. And that's all I'm hoping everyone gets out of this panel. And we have a wonderful panel. As you saw, a lot of great pertinent information. And I feel good about spreading this good information to the Lansing region.
So what are you seeing right now, Tico? Just kind of day to day, you know, a lot of, you know, with the governor's stay home, stay safe executive order, there's a lot of the reopenings happening. I think our region is looking to kind of move into that next phase. But what are you just seeing day to day?
Yeah, what I am seeing right now is a lot of fear, honestly. People really aren't sure is their work safe? Is their workspace safe? And so we're getting a lot of questions. We're getting asking for a lot of recommendations on what products to use. We're really being heard from people as far as they don't know. Back in the past, cleaning used to not be on the priority list. Quite frankly, if a company was to come in and take the trash, maybe clean the bathroom a little bit, vacuum once in a while, that was good enough. Well, now it's not. Now we want, now people want to make sure all touch points have been disinfected and sanitized, not only at night cleaning, but sometimes during the day. And so we're seeing an increase in knowledge of product from people who never cared about cleaning. And now that's all the topic is how do you clean? What do you use? Let me see your MSDS sheets. You know, it goes on. And I feel once people understand that if the process is done right, you do not have to worry about pathogens, bacteria, viruses in the workplace. If it's done right, you're coming into a safe workplace, and all you really would have to worry about is the people coming in and not washing their hands, not having good hygiene. But once you can get a proper cleaning company in place, doing the right things, whether it's in-house or a company, then your workspace will be clean. And that's what we're trying to get the word out to people and pass that empowerment. Imagine going into your workspace and totally not knowing was your space cleaned properly. That has to bring some, you know, it has to build your nerves up to know, are you sitting in a space that you could get sick 14 days later once you sat there or ate there? And so that's what I'm seeing, you know, uptick on knowledge, number one.
Well, thank you. So we do have some questions coming in now, which is good. It always always starts with one. I'm glad I could kick us off. But so where can, this question is, where can I locally here in the Lansing region buy sanitizer?
Well, the products that we mentioned today, Duckett Brothers is a distributor for these manufacturers. So if that is something you're looking for, you can always contact Duckett Brothers. We do have a website, duckettbrothers.com, or you could give us a call, 517-487-6500. And I also have an email address, tduckett@duckettbrothers.com.
Thank you. The next question is, how many times a day would you recommend a company should be cleaning their business throughout the day?
Do you want to answer that, or MacKenzie? I can if not.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Okay.
So we're currently recommending, and again, I believe it depends on the capacity and of the workplace facility or the capacity of the restaurant, and it's up to the discretion, but ultimately we're recommending every hour, just because you get so much foot traffic coming in and out of these businesses that it's hard to know, especially with some people being asymptomatic with COVID. It's better to be safe than sorry. So we are recommending cleaning every hour.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, for your customers that have demonstrated the ability to efficiently work remotely, are you seeing plans for a near-term return to the office, or is it more long-term phased-in approach?
Yeah, I can answer that. What I'm seeing is companies are coming in shifts. They're coming in on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you have another set of group that's coming in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I think at some point, everyone will start coming in together, but to stagger their days is what I'm seeing the most. You have in manufacturing, you have first shifts and second shifts and third shifts, and after every shift, there's cleaning and disinfecting and sanitizing being done. And I think once, that may never change, but once everything settles down, it probably will reduce to a one or 2 day cleaning.
Okay. Next question is, can either of you talk about the foggers that are hitting the markets, key differences between the electrostatic versus non-electrostatic, and is using a fogger better over conventional manual cleaning?
Sure. This is a product that I would suggest. It's a Victory electrostatic sprayer, and what this does is when you spray the electrostatic sprayer, it wraps around doorknobs, chairs, your desk. It basically is a cloud of product that sanitizes every surface in a room or a suite or office. And that's something that we started doing probably about a month and a half ago. I spent quite a few weeks being educated on what product to use in it, how to use it, and how often to use it. So that's definitely the new wave that a lot of people just aren't educated on. And we are getting educated on that more and more every day. And I would suggest that you use the electrostatic sprayer every 30 days. You still have to clean, disinfect, sanitizer, but if you use the electrostatic sprayer every 30 days with a product that has a longer dwell time, killing time that we do carry, then I would say your workplace would be totally sanitized and clean. And that's a great question because a lot of people just aren't sure about it at all. And we've been working with some manufacturers, and it's really growing in our cleaning industry.
So can people just buy those sprayers?
Yes, you can buy the sprayers. Right now, they're very hard to get because you can imagine the government has been buying them and using them. Companies have been buying them and using them. So companies do sell them, but there's a 3 to 3 to 6 month lead time on these products. And it's you can get them in backpack sprays, guns. And if you don't have a electrostatic sprayer, you can use a paint sprayer, but it's just not as effective as the electrostatic sprayer.
How much is that sprayer that you would use every 30 days that you just had, I guess? That's one of the questions.
That's about the one that sprayer the handheld. That's about $800 to $1,200. Yeah. And
Wow.
yeah.
How's the go ahead, Roger, I'm sorry.
Just one other, and I'm certainly not the accountant, but since we're talking about cost, everybody understands there's an additional cost to this, right? This whole process. It was interesting, last week in the Free Press, there was an article, and I think it was, what's his name, Todd Gelwart, who is the owner of Island House Hotel up on Mackinac Island, and he owns a couple of restaurants up there and the Starbucks on the island. And his sons, who manage that and are already on site, have said that he figures they have and or will have spent roughly $50,000. Now, that's I don't know how many rooms Island House Hotel has up there. So your business may be entirely different, but just there is obviously a cost associated to this. And he looks at it like an insurance policy. I've got to do it. I don't want to get sued. Let's follow the proper procedures, but there is a cost component.
Yeah, so kind of going back to how is the supply chain right now for Michigan? Everybody's trying to get their hand. I'm thinking of the sprayers right now, but also just supply chain in general from your guys' perspective on what that looks like.
Well, since I was just on, I'll answer at least from Warsaw, and then let MacKenzie and Tico chime in. The initial ramp up to make a lot of product that we hadn't made before. For instance, one of the items we recommend is TB Quat. That is our #1 selling product for disinfecting and killing the SARS-CoV-2. We may have sold 80 cases in all of 2019. The first 6 weeks of the pandemic, we had orders for over 2,000 cases. So it was kind of a rough slog, trying to keep the plant maintained, trying to buy all the equipment, the corrugated, manufacture, find out which employees cannot work, and so on. So it took a few weeks to ramp up, but outside of a couple products, the supply chain has kind of caught up on anything that, air quotes, COVID related. I guess we'll let MacKenzie talk about KC Clark's supply chain.
I'll chime in real quickly. What we found is exactly what Roger said. There was a big spike, couldn't get product. Finally, we were able to get product. We have our warehouse full of TB Quat right now. And the thing that we're seeing right now are the wipes that are hard to get. The Clorox wipes disinfectant in general. Once they come in, they go. And that seems to be the hottest ticket right now. And what I try to explain to all our customers is you don't always have to have wipes. We have spray that you can spray, and then you have wipers like the Wipe-All L60s and L30s that you can just wipe the product, the surfaces down. So you don't necessarily always need wipes. You spray, you let the dwell time, and then you wipe. That's just as effective as a Clorox wipe or any type of other wipe out there.
Yes, and I would agree with Roger about when did this start? About 3 months ago, Kimberly-Clark's demand on all of our products was up 600%. As again, you saw in the grocery stores, we were sold out of toilet paper because everybody thought that that's what we needed at the time. But we have started to normalize out from a supply chain perspective. All of our towel products and dispensers are ready to ship. We are still experiencing some issues with sanitizer, just because that is the hottest item in demand to keep employees and patrons safe. So that we're hoping will normalize within the next 2 to 3 months. And then our wipers, again, we're in high demand, and we are in a better position today than we were a few months ago. But we still have some products that are that we're having some outages on that we're hoping to resolve within the next 60 days. And we know that we like to take into account all the demand so that we can forecast for things like these. So as customers and patrons bring business to Tico and Tico brings it to me, I can account for that. So that way we're able to supply customers and patrons with the products they need to keep themselves safe and healthy and keeping the workplaces clean.
Thank you. We have another question that came in. What is the difference between a gel-based and water-based sanitizer?
Well, gel, if you're talking about alcohol gel, certainly the alcohol properties tend to be very acceptable. The EPA allows it. We've seen 60 and 70%. A water-based does not have, and I don't want to particularly get into the whole chemistry of that, but an alcohol-based will kill or sanitize. A water-based won't do as good a job as an alcohol sanitizer just because of the products put into it. Tico?
No, you're absolutely right. You know, alcohol is definitely a better dirt germ killer, and that's what we recommend. But if you don't have that product, you can always go to the other and still feel, you know, you are cleaning viruses and bacteria.
And in fact, one of the questions that comes into the CDC, do any natural cleaners kill the coronavirus? The answer right from CDC is yes, and it's soap. So now, but they also recommend, and you know, with the little grandson here in the house, he's demonstrating 20 seconds, and his elementary school class had a little song that they sing. But soap and water does real good, but alcohol as a sanitizer certainly works better.
Well, you know, that goes back to what I tell people all the time. The biggest thing is wash your hands. Wash your hands repeatedly. Wash your hands before you eat. Wash your hands when you come in the house. And really, sanitizer and hand sanitizer and gel, that's if you can't wash your hands. You know, some people have the notion of, you know, there's a sink right there and soap, but I'm just going to wash my hands with hand sanitizer. Well, that's really the last resort. Washing your hands is key. Hand sanitizer is if you aren't able to wash your hands. And that's another educational thing that people just didn't realize prior to this past few months.
One of our friends who was in St. Louis is a former Navy Commodore, and he was way before his time. Almost 20 years ago, I remember he would wash his hands 10, 12 times a day. So he was way ahead of the curve, but that dude was never sick either.
I can imagine.
We have another question that just came in a childcare setting. What is the best but yet safest liquid soap to have for the children and the staff?
Anyone want to chime in? My suggestion would be any antimicrobial soap. Antimicrobial is a technology that is science-based, and that's what I would suggest.
Another just question here, just Michigan made, locally made sanitizers, where are those available?
I really don't know. There's a lot of people around Michigan that are making them. A lot of bars are making them. I really can't answer that question.
Yeah, I do know that for the attendee who asked that, on the Chamber's website and our COVID-19 resource page, we do have those local companies that are producing those sanitizers, as well as Mr. Duckett's, all of his information as well. That's all available on the lansingchamber.org COVID-19 resource page. And with that, if there's any other questions from attendees, I'd like to thank our panel. Thank you, Tico and Roger and MacKenzie, for joining us today. Thank you to everybody for joining us. Actually, tomorrow we have another Relaunch Greater Lansing webinar program that's focused on indoor quality of air, and Plume Service Company is going to be doing that from 1 to 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. That information to register, there's no charge for that, is on the Chamber's website. So again, thank you for your time on today. We'll be sending this out, and we hope you have a great Tuesday. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, MacKenzie. Thank you, Steve, the Lansing Chamber, and let's make the Lansing region safe.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Amen. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you.